All right, so we are in section 3 of module 1 of NCCR Core. And so this one is all about struck by and caught in between hazards. This is 2 of the big 4. And so struck by is getting hit by something, you're getting struck or punched. Remember, caught in is getting stuck between, so you're getting squeezed between 2 things. And so that's the difference. If the impact is from you hitting something, or if you're getting crushed. Kind of think of those 2 ways. So first we're looking at struck by. And so a big one is falling objects, right? So someone's working above you and they simply drop what they were working on. And so here we see a picture of a tool lanyard. And so a lot of companies, steel crews and stuff, you have to have one of these. So your tool belt, you're gonna have a safety line, a lanyard attached to your tool. So if you dropped it, it's not going all the way to the ground. This protects people who work below you and also protects your tools, right? If you drop that impact down 100 feet, down 50 feet, down probably 20 feet, it's broken, right? So you wanna maintain safety things to prevent things from falling. And so other ways to do this is toe boards and things so you don't kick things off of scaffolding. If you want to make sure whenever you're working overhead of someone else, you need to make sure you have some kind of protection. If no one's below you, it doesn't matter as much, but if you're working above people, you need to make sure that you have that. And then people below, you got to wear your hard hat, right? So in case something did fall, you catch it. And so to help prevent things from falling over, when you stack things, you're going to stack them kind of a pyramid shape. You want a 4-to-1 ratio. And so like your bricks, for every 4 bricks high, you need to add another row wide. So you can't just have a stack of 10 high, too many. So it's 4 bricks, and if you get to 8 bricks, you're gonna go side by side, and then you keep making that stack get wider and wider. That's just giving you a solid base. You don't want, we know Jenga, you play the game where you pull out little blocks. The taller it is, the more likely to fall over because it's narrow and not balanced. And so making sure you're keeping your materials stacked in a pyramid shape to prevent things from falling over. Flying objects, so you can get struck by something flying. This would be a nail that you shot through your material and you missed the stud and it went right through the sheeting and goes flying across the space. This could be wood chips from using a saw, as you see in this picture, grinder, the little shavings of metal flying off, and you see he has safety glasses and a face shield on to protect him from flying objects. So a flying object is something that shoots out. So that's why we wear safety glasses. That's why you have face shields if you need it. So that's a common thing. Another, if you're demoing concrete, right, and you're breaking it up with a jackhammer, little things could fly off from that. So anything that could become a projectile would be your flying object hazard. Vehicle hazards. All right, so vehicles could be struck by or caught in a way. First, we'll look at it as a struck by way. So if you are standing on the road and a car hits you, that's it, you're struck by, right? And so you got to make sure vehicles, construction vehicles, they get annoying, but they always have the beeping backup noise, right? The siren or the alarm, whenever they're backing up, it's kind of annoying. So that's to make sure you're aware that you don't have to come in. They're telling you to get out of the way. So you never can disable those things. Always make sure they're working. You're working alongside the road. Make sure you have the cones out. Make sure you aren't being stupid, and protect yourself. So just never put yourself at risk where there's the potential for you to get hit. And so this is a lot on you. You have to keep your head on a swivel and pay attention. Where are vehicles moving? Look both ways before you cross the street. Those kind of things. Maintain eye contact with the vehicles. Don't turn your back on these moving things. All right. So this is just another way vehicle hazards. It's not necessarily struck by, but just saying a reminder, if you're working with a gas-powered vehicle inside an enclosed space, pay attention to the fumes. You can easily get carbon monoxide poisoning. So forklifts inside a building, or even like a gas-powered cutoff saw, those kind of things, watch out for fumes. So now we're going to look at getting caught in or caught in between. A big one is digging holes and trenches, right? You got to dig a foundation. You got to go deep into the earth. And so dirt can fall on top of you and it can kill you. It only takes, as you see right here, it only takes 2 to 3 feet of soil. So that's it, only 2 feet and you can be dead because it's that much pressure on your lungs if you get buried. So if you're laying on the bottom and someone buries you 2 feet deep, it can kill you. I don't know if you've ever, for fun at the beach, if you've gone to the beach, you dig a hole and you bury yourself or bury a friend, right? You can feel all that weight on you and you're just getting buried a little bit in sand. Imagine now you're 3 feet underground and getting buried. And so lots of times you're digging trenches that are 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever it is, down. Imagine that falling on top of you. And so you got to prevent things from happening. And so a big way is pay attention to your soil type. Solid rock. sometimes you got to dig through solid rock, and you have to use, lots of times they use explosives to do that actually. They'll put dynamite sticks in the ground and explode it because you can't dig it with a machine. And so these are super strong. You don't have to worry about them caving in on you because it's a solid rock. It's like a mountain that's not falling in on you. So type A soil is fine grained, cohesive, clay, hardpan, caliche, particles too small to see with the naked eye. And so this is what we have. We are type A. We are very much clay. Caliche is out in like Vegas. It's a desert. And so it's super fine. And what's unique is when it's dry, it's like concrete. I don't know if you try to dig a hole around here, if it's been really dry in the summer, you aren't breaking that with a shovel. But if it is really wet, it gets really sloopy and muddy and it's a mess. It's not very stable. So depending on weather, this kind of soil changes a lot. But in general, clay sticks together pretty well. You can pack the sides. And so this one is pretty safe. You got B, which is like topsoil, where you can see all the little pieces, the real dark soil that's loose. What people are putting in their gardens, that would be type B. And some places have that natural, really nice soil. And then also down here, we got type C. Type C is sand or gravel. And so you see all the particles of sand with your naked eye, right? So that's what type C would be, is sand. And so type C is the most dangerous because if you ever try to dig a trench with sand, it always just keeps falling in on itself. And so you got to do specific things to prevent that from happening. So solid rock's the safest, it's not going anywhere. Type A, you can pack it pretty good. And then type C, you're going to have to use some kind of mechanism to prevent it from falling in on itself. And so here is an idea. A slope trench, this would be used with clay, but you're just digging at an angle, right? Because dirt wants to fall over the edge. So if it's way back here, that dirt's not falling over because gravity is working on itself. So here's a slope trench for type A, or sorry, it says for type B. Again, use it for type A as well. Or benching, meaning you're basically cutting stairs. You're doing steps into it. There's a 4-foot maximum, and then a 1-to-1 angle, like how wide you have to go. But it's basically a slope. You're just doing stairs versus a straight line. Trench shields, all right, so this is what you're going to need for that C. Soil that's going to be falling in, or if you just don't have room to do benching or slope, because you got to go wide, really wide to do that. So sometimes you can't, you have a narrow space, so you're going to use these. Downtown, when they're working on Main Street, this is what they do. You see these around. They're putting these in the ground as they're working on those pipes downtown. So if you want to see what it looks like, go take a trip. So let me make sure we got everything covered. So benching, again, is similar to a smooth sides, except you have steps. You cannot use benching in type C. Type C, you can't do it. A competent person, before you start working in a excavation, a competent person, you got to inspect it, make sure everything's up to par. In type C, you're going to need some kind of shoring or shielding. The difference between a trench shield and shoring is a shoring is designed to protect the entire trench. So you're going to shore up the entire thing, you're preventing cave-ins. Whereas a trench shield, this is essentially box that you put in and then you work within the box. It's not preventing cave-ins from the whole trench. It's designed to protect the worker inside the box. And so the difference is you're doing the whole thing, you're preventing the trench from falling in. That's the shoring. Shoring holds up the trench, or the shield protects the workers. Think of Captain America, his shield protected him. So the shield is to protect the worker. That's the difference. They're pretty close to the same thing, but a little bit different. Machine guards, those are on your machine to keep flying objects from hitting you. You want to make sure you do not disable those or remove them, keep them in place. You see, a grinder is a big one where people lots of times they take off these guards because it's easier to see what you're doing. Just leave them on. You don't want the little things to fly off and hit you in the face. All right, pinch point, this is the last thing. So this would be a vehicle hazard where you are, it's not a struck by, but you are caught in because, let's say this arm folds, you're standing here and it squeezes you in between, right? And so that would be a pinch point. This is common when you're working around machines. You got to watch out for this at all times. Or say you're working in a confined space, there's a wall behind the machine and you get stuck between the machine and the wall. That would be a pinch because he squeezed you between the two things. That would be a struck by. So you always got to make sure, especially around heavy equipment, always pay attention to what they're doing. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to get pinched. Working with the crane if you're moving things around. Make sure you don't get stuck or you could get pinched possibly. Here's the example, again, that pinch point, that hazard. You got to pay attention. This machine, it spins and then that back end will hang over. So you got to make sure that you don't get hit. That is section 3.